It's Thanksgiving Eve. Got Scott Pianowski from Yahoo Fantasy Sports. We're going to be talking Thanksgiving. We'll be talking about the Thanksgiving games and, of course, Week 13 ranks. All coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. We are brought to you by Dabble. We are brought to you by Trophy Smack and, of course, by Chalkboard. Thank you for their sponsorships. I'm here with Scott Pianowski, my longtime friend in the fantasy sports industry. Scott, just friend, not friend in the fantasy sports industry, but friend. We've been friends for 5 years now, dude. More than that. Since 99, 98?
1999, yeah. Broadband Sports, Los Angeles office. Yeah, it's a great, you and Pete and Herb and Kevin Demoff and Shu and, a lot of great people. Josh Ross, a lot of people we still are in constant contact with. And, it's the success of anything is because of the personalities and the way people work together and the way people bond together. And that's obviously the big part of the RotoWire, Roto News success story. Len Hochberg is somebody I should also mention who was part of that time together. So, I just think it's great that we're all still connected. We're all still doing stuff together. We're talking today and we're all sharing work and, trying to win games and staff picks and all that good stuff. But
we turned Len Hochberg into a fantasy sports guy. I think that in and of itself is an amazing accomplishment. When he first joined us, he got annoyed. We were doing drafts in the Roto Room in the old Broadband Sports building. He's an old school journalist and was brought in to do work on a separate property. Wasn't working on the Roto News portion of it at the time. And he's like, "What? I'm trying to work here." And like, dude, this is work for us. And now he's one of us. But it's great. He's doing DraftKings videos. He's Mr. Fantasy Golf. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, his golf work is outstanding. And he was such a great journalist at the Washington Post.
Yes.
That there was a local restaurant that if you were of a certain stature, they would name a sandwich after you. And there was a burger named, I think the restaurant has since closed, but there was a Len Hochberg burger. All I remember is it had blue cheese dressing somewhere on the burger.
Was that a Hoch burger or a Hochberg burger? That's what I need.
Something like that. But that's, you're going to be pretty important to have a sandwich named after you. I mean, it always sounds like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode waiting to happen. But yeah, it's great. I don't know how much this stuff translates to people who are demanding Week 13 rankings, but I just love sharing old stories of all the good people who were in and out of that building.
Exactly. Before we dive into the rankings, it's Thanksgiving Eve. First of all, need to know your Thanksgiving traditions, including food. I know you have a big take, so let's share it right now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I was younger, Thanksgiving Eve was the best night of the year to go out. It wasn't New Year's Eve. It was Thanksgiving Eve. And I was actually just sending a message to my friend Tom Russell, who used to be in a band called the Motherless Children, who would a lot of times play on Thanksgiving Eve. And everybody had nothing to do. Everybody was back from whatever they did, they were in college or they had relocated. Everybody would come back to see family. And that was just a great night to go out. And what I have done every Thanksgiving day is eat pasta. The mom's side of the family was Italian. They used to actually put out, a traditional meal and an Italian meal, and just the turkey would always get ignored. People couldn't have enough of the pasta. So that eventually just became 100% pasta. And that has been portable to my adult life. My two brothers I know live the same way. So yeah, pasta on Thanksgiving. I have nothing against turkey. There's a local bagel place that makes a really good turkey bagel sandwich that I get, maybe once or every couple of weeks. But yeah, pasta on Thanksgiving is the way to go. And if you're ranking up the pies, I just want to see custard get represented. Custard pie, not only is it a great song by Led Zeppelin, but it is underrated pie. Chill it, make sure it's chilled overnight, have it on Thanksgiving, and that will be a great dessert to cap off. As we're watching 3 great football games, right? What a lineup we got coming.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, Italian food, man. That's the way to go.
All right. 3 awesome Thanksgiving games, one really good Friday game, and a really sneakily bad Sunday and Monday slate. There's a couple of games on Sunday that are going to be good, but man, the best stuff is early. We're front loading this year. Let's jump right into this. This is a rankings podcast. We'll talk about quarterbacks first. Got to start off Joe Burrow coming back. He's making his return after the week 2 injury. He's about a month ahead of time. If you are so lucky to have held on to him so long or able to pick him up off of waivers, are you using him this week?
Yeah, in a league that I'm in, you're in the pentathlon, right? The Derek Van Riper League, right?
Yes, I am. I'm taking up the rear on that one there.
Yeah, Frank Schwab and I are co-managers, and we have some disciplines. It's 5 different leagues all in one, and we're doing terrible in some. We get eliminated in Survivor pretty quickly. Our spread picks have not been good. That's on me, but we are in first place in the Superflex League. It's very competitive, and we have Joe Burrow. We actually picked him up. At one point, it seemed like he might come back, and I was lucky enough to fall into the news when that happened because he wasn't on a roster because there's no IR spots in that league. So we have Burrow, we have Goff, we have Trevor Lawrence, forever a tease, and we have Cam Ward just for insurance. But even though he's been better of late, we're not going to play Ward. And so Frank and I had the discussion. We're going to play Burrow. I initially had Burrow ranked 7th in my first pass of week 13 ranks. And whenever you see a ranking for me on like a Tuesday, that's just the first ones I put out. I haven't really gone deep on this stuff. I've since moved him back to quarterback 9. And so just give it some context. He's after Prescott. He's in front of Jacoby Brissett. If somebody said to me, I have Burrow and Brissett, which is a lot of teams could have that, right? Because sometimes you think, well, how could somebody have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? That wouldn't make any sense. But you could have Burrow and Brissett. That would make a lot of sense. And
for sure,
classic case of, do you stick with what's working, or do you stick with the name player who hasn't played since I think it's week 2, right? I mean, how sharp can he be? Obviously, T. Higgins won't play. Chase is still a dynamite receiver, and he has a history of going crazy in these island games. I remember last year against the Ravens, it felt like the first team to 40 won both games. They're very entertaining and very fantasy friendly. But I feel like we have to look at Burrow as no floor, wide range of outcomes. I wouldn't be surprised at all if, at the end of the night, it's like he had like 195 yards and 1 touchdown. I'm like, wow, okay, that was Al Capone's fault. But maybe Baltimore's defense sounds like Kyle Hamilton may not play. He's a key determinant for them. Maybe they have to keep up with what the Ravens do. And the Ravens, of course, are their own box of problems on the other side. I'm sure
next on my list. Don't worry, we'll get to Lamar. That's for sure.
I have Burrow at 9, and
I have him at 10. I'm with you on this.
Jeff, I am not one of these. Oh, he's Joe Burrow. You have to play him. I don't hang my hat that way. I don't play for friendliest loss. I want to do what's right and what I think is right in my heart. And if you, dear listener, are out there and you think, I want to stick with this Brissett thing, or whoever it is, you believe in Drake May and you have a May Burrow question or something like that, you play. And I do have May ranked higher. As I mentioned, Burrow and Brissett I had next to each other. It's not going to bother me if I thought Brissett was the right play and I play him in front of Burrow and then Burrow goes crazy. I'm like, oh, of course he's Joe Burrow, because I think, again, wide range of outcomes, no guarantees, and reps matter. Sharpness matters. Practice time matters. And he doesn't have his full complement of players, right? The offensive line, as you know, has been a major problem all season. So Burrow, to me right now, it's funny, 9. It's his uniform number. I have him ranked at 9th. I would not be surprised if next week it's like, okay, back in business, top 5 the rest of the way. Or maybe it's like, okay, we didn't get the prove it game, and now he's outside of the top 10. Again, I think there's a wide range of outcomes, which is why you let off the podcast or the show with Joe Burrow Talk.
Only difference between me and you is I have Brissett ahead of Burrow, and I have that choice in the league actually too. So it's something I gave a lot of thought to. Is I'm going to start Brissett in this league. I did pick up Burrow, and it's tough because no Kyle Hamilton and the history there, but also no T. Higgins too. So let's just keep in mind there is a countervailing thing. I think the offensive line is worse than it was last year somehow. Orlando Brown is definitely worse than he was last year. That's for sure. So I get it. Question from
by the way, how can you not love the Jacoby Brissett story? I don't think I have him anywhere. I have ancillary pieces of that offense.
Mm-hmm.
There is a guillotine league where I've added Brissett, and now I have to decide if I want to play him over some of the name brands that I have available to me. But the last 6 weeks, quarterback 7, quarterback 12, quarterback 10, quarterback 10, quarterback 4, quarterback 8. And this is what makes fantasy football great, right? Because when he played, we were just like, okay, just hopefully the offense won't go off the rails. Instead, it's been so much better, and nobody misses Kyler Murray, who struggles to see some of those tight window throws, struggles, of course, in the red zone. I mean, Trey McBride couldn't buy a touchdown under the Murray establishment. Now Brissett, who's by all accounts a journeyman, by all accounts just an ordinary player. Nobody sees him as a superstar or anything, but it's just so funny when an offense can get on schedule and they can get some rhythm going. Just look at what Michael Wilson has done the last 2 weeks. I have him as a top 20 receiver now, but this is, to me, I think it's more fun. I know a lot of people think the fun of fantasy is, oh, I drafted great, and I ripped a couple people off in trades, and now I have this like superstar team. And yeah, I guess there's a certain novelty to that. But to me, the fun is when you're beating people with, a Jacoby Brissett who was on nobody's draft radar, or nobody's even one injury away radar. We all weren't like, oh, imagine the Cardinals offense if Jacoby Brissett got the keys. Nobody said that all summer. Nobody said that when Murray got hurt. So this is, to me, the unknowable stuff that becomes something by deep in the season. Now Jacoby Brissett has circle of trust privileges. Michael Wilson has probably earned them. I've
got Wilson at 12 this week, dude.
Man, I probably don't have him high enough, and I am definitely, again, it doesn't matter to me what I thought of Michael Wilson before the season. And a lot of times I come to these guys after the fact, like, okay, well, how good was he at Stanford? When was he drafted? What was known about Michael Wilson before he popped? Or maybe just he and Brissett have a special connection. Maybe the play calling has really clicked in a certain way. And I think if you watch the video, and I'm not a scout, but I've watched a lot of football. I try to rewatch as much of it as I can. I think he looks as good on the film as he does in the box score. And sure, if you're going to play him over Justin Jefferson this week, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy that's on my list of problems that we have to discuss here. Okay, TBR asks, do I drop either Brock Purdy or Jackson Dart to pick up Burrow?
Do we have any idea of what the format is, or if he has any other quarterbacks? Or
no, just that he has those two. I don't know if it's super flex or not, but Burrow happens to be on the waiver wire, so it's like, who do you? I would consider dropping Purdy.
I think Purdy for Burrow would be the move, because the thing with Dart, and we don't know when Dart comes back, we don't know if Mike Kafka can encourage Dart to play a little bit less recklessly, and that would hurt Dart's fantasy bottom line. He's got those 7 rushing touchdowns, but Purdy, man, did not play well, of course, against the Carolina team that nobody thinks that much of. He's probably not going to play that great this week against Myles Garrett, who probably got 2 sacks by the time we started this. But what a season!
Weather's going to be bad. Yeah,
this Cleveland defense as a whole is great. I mean, Garrett's fantastic. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he's been supported by a lot of guys too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, weather could be an issue. It's really cold in Detroit, by the way. I'm sure as you put down your glass of iced tea and you wipe your brow because you're probably sweating in Los Angeles area.
87 today.
Yeah,
it was cold for a week, and then it just heated back up again the last day and a half.
I was invited to play golf maybe 10 days ago on a day where I just couldn't get away. I had too much work going on, and it was like the last nice day out. I'm like, okay. And I even went to the range after that. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm practicing for a round that's 5 months away. But, golf, you never lose that affection for it. But, yeah, I think dropping Purdy for Burrow makes sense, because Burrow, you're just – when you're going to have these pivots available, you're just like, well, who is the biggest upside? Who would be the guy who could be a needle mover for me? And I just think it's easier to tell that story for Burrow, accepting that he has no floor either.
Exactly. By the way, clarification on Dart. He did fully practice today. He remains in the concussion protocol, but that is a step in the protocol. You have to have a full practice before you can get cleared. So I fully expect him to get cleared. And remember, they play on Monday night also. I would do that. I would start Burrow over Dart this week if it was just either or situation, because we don't know what form of Dart is going to be, and you have to wait until Monday night. But I'd start Burrow over Purdy. Purdy's buried on my rankings this week. He hates bad weather. It's all these things is a good reason to stay away from Brock Purdy. So all the more reason, go Burrow over both of those guys this particular week. Lamar Jackson. I rewatched that Ravens Jets game. Is the first rewatch I did. I had to figure out what the heck is going on. It's the same game every time. Nick Whalen made that point on the SXM show since coming back, he's just not the same guy. Every Wednesday, it's a different practice, different injury that holds him out of practice. This week, it was a toe on Monday. I can get you a toe, but at the same time, he doesn't want to run, Scott. I watched that game, and either doesn't want to, can't, or isn't being allowed to. Whatever the case may be, and maybe they unleash him for Thursday night, but it is not the same quarterback right now.
Totally agree, and it's cluster injuries. He's got 3 different injuries, like a knee, thigh, and toe. I want to say I'm not positive I have those correct. We know the toe is the most recent one, but it's a collection of things. And when you watch Lamar Jackson, if you'd never seen him play before, you would have no idea that this was a guy whose game is built around electric running and just scaring the pants off of defense on every snap, because they're always afraid he's going to make a 40-yard run at any time, or he's going to extend a play and catch somebody downfield because you can't cover guys forever. So take that. And I think a lot of people thought last week, here we go, Jets, right? I mean, they traded away their two most important defensive players at the deadline. They've been bad anyway. They still haven't intercepted a pass this year, which is a hell of an achievement as we approach Thanksgiving. Well done, Jets. Good job, good effort. But here's the get right spot. And the Ravens did not get right. They had like 250 yards of offense or something like that. They had 3 points at halftime against a team that can hardly get it out of its own way on offense or on defense. So, man, I still have Lamar at 3, and it feels – I don't feel convicted as you should of a quarterback at 3, but then I look at the Cincinnati defense and I'm like, man, how are they going to stop anything? And they'll get Henry rolling. We know how horrible Cincinnati has been against tight ends all year. So you would think Mark Andrews is almost like a guarantee to score a touchdown. I would love to see Zay Flowers get another touchdown. He had one in week 1. I was really excited. This was a breakout year, season 3 for Flowers. He's been very consistent with yardage, although not great with yardage, but he can't get into the end zone. He seems to get tackled at the 7-yard line every week, but a lot of that's on Lamar. And if he doesn't, and it's not just that it hurts, obviously, if he doesn't have that same gear, which is a speculation, right? That he doesn't have that same running juice that he would normally have. So that just in and of itself is a problem, but also it affects your confidence. It affects your mojo. It affects your ability that you need to think that you're constantly the best player on the field, and that you're the superhero. And when you lose some of that, when you aren't as bulletproof as you normally are because of the injuries you've battled, because of the time you've lost, I think sometimes that doesn't come back for a season, and eventually what's going to happen, and it's going to frustrate me, is Lamar Jackson, whether it's this week or later this season, or maybe even next year, he's going to have some monstrous game. He's going to score 47 fantasy points. And people are going to say, oh, all you people who doubted Lamar Jackson, he's back now. It's like, well, that's going to happen someday. I can't guarantee you it's week 13 against the Bengals, even though everything in this matchup screams out that he should walk off the bus with 30 points. And Lamar Jackson in form, Lamar Jackson healthy would do that. Still, I have my quarterback 3. I mentioned my guillotine team. Not that anybody wants to hear, about your individual teams, but that's where you have superstar lineups. I have Matthew Stafford as an option. I have Brissett as an option. I have Jackson as an option. When I picked up Jackson, I was eyeing these Cincinnati games and thinking, okay, here we go. And I'm thinking long and hard about maybe I just want the floor of Stafford. Maybe I'm probably not going to play Brissett, but it's nice that I have him. At least he's on somebody else's team. But right. I'm thinking long and hard. And this is what, you're not a fantasy analyst until you invalidate your ranks. Right now I have Jackson at 3. I have Stafford at 5, but this is going to be a game day call for me. Until that game kicks off, I'm not sure who I'm going to play for my guillotine team.
6, 7, 8 for me: Stafford, Lamar, Brissett, in that order. And my worry about Stafford is maybe they get up so big and they run the ball a little bit more this week. However, there's the MVP narrative, all that. It might be countervailing a little bit, and the fact that they throw so often in the red zone that the 2-yard fade to Devontae Adams is like money in the bank. That it's better than a running play for them. That's lately, at least it has been. That is my concern, is it's like one of those, after prime time routing of the Bucs, that maybe they take their foot off the gas a little this week.
And no Stafford running component at all, right? I mean, in fact, he'll probably have negative rushing yards because there'll be a couple of kneel downs involved, but you just hope it's not a week where Kyron Williams or maybe even Blake Corum get the work. The worst thing for you if you're a Stafford manager, you don't want them to score on defense, right? Or don't want them to run a kickback or something, take a touchdown off the board. But the end of the day, I have such little faith in the Cincinnati defense. I don't mean to kick my friend when he's down here, but
it's okay.
I'm probably going to break ties with siding with Lamar, give him one more chance, but it should have happened by now. He's been mediocre for 3 straight games in good matchups. And so, I think this is going to be a big reveal week where if it doesn't happen this week, I think we have to stop expecting it to happen. And I know that's maybe not the most satisfying answer. We're supposed to have very binary takes, but this is, to me, one of the biggest reveals of the Thanksgiving slate is going to be, what is Joe Burrow ready to do? And is Lamar Jackson finally ready to be Lamar Jackson again?
Exactly. I think you framed that right. We're brought to you by Trophy Smack. We did the Scott Fishbowl live draft there a couple of times already. I love those guys. They're a great place they had down in the city of Orange. You dominated your fantasy football league all season long. Now it's time to show it off. Trophy Smack turns your league domination into hardware built to flex. From championship belts, trophies, rings, and chains. They've got everything a true champion needs to make victories unforgettable. And don't forget about shaming that league loser. They've got items like high visibility loser vests, embarrassing singlets, and humiliating license plate frames. Trophy Smack fuels the glory and the punishment every league needs to keep the season unforgettable. Trash talk fades, but hardware lasts forever. You earn this moment. Claim it. Visit TrophySmack.com to lock in your hardware and take 10% off with code RotoSmack10. That's TrophySmack.com, code RotoSmack10. You can thank us later. Big thanks. I'll thank him now. Thank you, Trophy Smack, for your sponsorship. Here with Scott Pianowski, Yahoo Fantasy Sports. Follow him on Twitter at Scott_Pianowski. Scott, let's talk running backs. Let's talk Saquon. There's a get-right week for Saquon. It's probably this week with the Bears missing 3 linebackers.
Yeah, and a bad defense even with those guys healthy. But as you said, the whole linebacker room is hurt. But Barkley's got his own problems. I mean, no Lane Johnson. He hasn't been as explosive this year. He's an okay pass catcher, but not dynamic in the pass game. And the thing you always have to accept with Barkley is that when it's first and goal at the 1, it's Jalen Hurts. It's not Barkley. I mean, Barkley did not have a single 1-yard touchdown run last year. He averaged, one of my favorite stats from last season, he averaged 29.4 yards per touchdown, which for a running back is an unbelievable number and an unsustainable number. And so we all knew, you've heard me say this for years, we all knew regression was going to hit Saquon Barkley, but regression to what? I still thought he was a first-round pick, back half first-round pick. That's kind of where I landed on that. I got lucky I didn't get any Barkley shares, but I didn't think, and he's had some dings. Every running back is going to get hit and be hurt to some degree, but I didn't think in ostensibly a healthy season that Barkley could be this mediocre. Now, for a general fantasy league, I have him at 8 right now because the matchup's so good. Against an ordinary team, I might have him in the 10, 11, 12 range. It's just not realistic for your fantasy depth to be strong enough to maybe be benching Barkley. If we were talking a couple of weeks ago, I would have been thinking about maybe he'd be somebody you'd want to trade. But, the other guys in your league, they have TVs, they have phones, they have the internet, right? You have RotoWire subscriptions. I mean, they're not blind to this stuff. So, a lot of times you need that selling game, right? You need somebody to come out and have a big game before you can actually make a move. So I'm just glad. I don't say this like in a snarky way, but I'm just glad he's not my problem because he'd be driving me crazy. And the Eagles, they are such a dysfunctional winning team. They won the Super Bowl last year. They've been to 2 Super Bowls, or I guess 3 Super Bowls if you go back to Foles in the last wave. This has been a successful franchise for the most part. They've drafted well. I know they got the Jefferson pick wrong. They took Jalen Reagor instead. Man, mentioned Justin Jefferson and landed on the Eagles, but they never seem that happy. The receivers never seem to get along with Hurts that well, and a lot of times you just hear people complain. Some of the offensive linemen complained about the play calling, and are they going to change the offensive coordinator who's got the play sheet and all that stuff? They always seem like the most unhappy, successful franchise that I can think of. Yeah, and they're 8-3 this year too, by the way. Yeah, it's fresh off a loss where they blew a 21-0 lead to their divisional rival. So, I mean, I'll allow some angst this week. That said, there are real problems, and I think it starts on the offensive line and the offensive coordinator. I think those are the 2 big starting points for me. This is their 4th coordinator in 4 years, which is crazy for a team that's that good to be that unstable. That's been the price of being successful. Then you get a little bit, right? But it's an extreme version of it, though. Even still, it took Detroit until this year to lose both coordinators. Usually, doesn't happen that. But then again, the Chiefs haven't gone through that sort of transition. For instance, part of that is Spags doesn't want to be a head coach anymore, so they're good that way. When you can have a coordinator that is not, the Patriots now have Josh McDaniels back. Nobody's ever going to hire him to be a head coach again. So you get that, having Spagnuolo as a defensive coordinator who's happy to be, that's basically the peak of his profession. He's been a head coach before. It didn't work out. So he's happy in that chair. What an advantage it is to never have that turnover be a problem for you. Yeah, exactly. It is a big deal. And I'm not impressed by Petula so far from my admittedly layman's eye. I think we all kind of sit here from afar, and yes, I watch a lot of football. I talk a lot of football. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not a coach. I mean, I'm judging ex post facto a lot of times, or I'm listening to others. It's third-hand information there. So, but it isn't working so far. I'd like to see more design runs. We saw a little bit of that against Dallas with Jalen Hurts, a couple of design runs, and hey, voila, they worked too. So that was nice. But the second half was more of the same, and it's beguiling.
No Lane Thomas is big. Cam Jurgens has been banged up. They can't run block very well right now. And I think everything stems from that.
But they're 10th in offensive DVOA for a team that has the talent. They should be probably a top 5 team every time, every season. And again, a lot of it speaks to the offensive line, but all of it speaks to the design. And I do think maybe you can't make a running quarterback into your entree, but I think they could sprinkle that in more. We saw maybe it was a month ago when they played Minnesota and they made a dedicated effort to get more play action going. And all of a sudden, voila, out of nowhere, Eureka, out of nowhere, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith had big games, right? Or maybe it was just Smith that day. Maybe that was one of the games that Brown missed. But I remember that they were hitting splash plays, and it was just a matter of trying them. And, my colleague.
Minnesota game, they both hit. They both hit in that game. That was a great game for that offense.
And I know
first half was bad still.
Play action's still a cheat code. My Breakfast Table podcast mate, Michael Salfino, would want me to mention that it hasn't been as effective league-wide this year as it is in past years, but still it's a plus play. I always say that if you're not moving your receivers, and again, I'm not, Bill Walsh here. I'm not Sam Weiss here, but I'm not one of the Kubiaks. I'm not one of the Shanahans, but if you're not moving your receivers before the snap, and if you're not doing play action passing proactively, to me, that's akin to a basketball team not running the pick and roll. I mean, you have to do that to define coverage, to get information from the defense before the snap. And I think the teams that run the same stuff with stationary guys, I just think they're leaving plus opportunities on the table. I just think it's a bad way to play football.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. Carolina Panthers, when they had one of their positive stretches was when they were running the ball so effectively, especially Rico Dowdle. On Monday night, Rico Dowdle had 6 carries, just 6. And, granted, I think this was an offense that couldn't get out of its own way. Bryce Young had an awful game, and they didn't run as many plays. But even accounting for all of that, I was disappointed in his usage. Do we see a squeaky wheel situation this week? A little bit of a bounce back, admittedly, against a tough opponent in the Rams.
Yeah, I'm just worried that the Rams are going to stuff Dowdle into a pretzel. I think it's going to be a case where he's probably going to get those 14, 15, 16 carries that we want. They're going to be for 52 yards. And Pat Doherty was tweeting about Bryce Young's weekly passing yards. It's like 125, 143, 158, 470, whatever it was, but everything else is like just this paltry number, especially by the way that the NFL plays today. And I think they're going to want to control the game, shorten the game. They don't want to get into a shootout with the Rams, but eventually when you fall behind by multiple scores, you have to do something. It's interesting. I was in a league where I need to trade for a running back. I matched up well with a team, and they had Derrick Henry, they had Dowdle, and at the price points we were discussing, Dowdle made the most sense for me. And the reason why I didn't trade for Dowdle was at the week 14 bye. It's a league where I need every win I can get. I'm on the cusp, even though I'm one of the better teams in the league, but I'm only a game over 500 right now, or maybe at 500. So I couldn't. The week 14 buy for Dowdle was kind of a kill shot for me. I couldn't afford to give up the piece I was going to be acquiring for one game off the top. So I ended up going for Breece Hall. Another set of problems. He's playing, but he's playing for the Jets. So we'll see how that works out. But I believe in Rico Dowdle, and I also credit Dave Canales for when Hubbard came back. They did use Hubbard, and they did kind of let it play out in the field. But I think very quickly they said, okay, this has got to be Rico Dowdle's backfield, and they made it a 1 and a B and a 70 and a 30 and all that stuff, where a lot of teams would play to the veteran, play to the contract, play to the guy they've had in the locker room longer. I give Carolina credit. Maybe they didn't do it as quickly as some people would have liked, but I think you have to be true to your locker room, to the competitive spirit of your team. That means Dowdle has to be the guy. But I'm seeing what he did. New Orleans was an easy matchup. He didn't come through. 18 for 53, 17 for 79 against the Jets. That's kind of the line I'm thinking of. Like the Rams, again, a very good run defense. So I think Dowdle's probably going to land around 60 yards rushing. At least last week, he did get involved in the passing game. He's been active in that area the last couple of weeks. Probably won't get a touchdown, but I have Dowdle lower. He's running back 18 for me, and that's probably about as low as I've ranked him in a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, I'm a little higher. I got him at 12, but that's also because I think he, it is about him. I think he is going to get a lot of work, and maybe in the passing game too. But again, 12 and 18, it's a difference, but it's maybe not as stark as you think there too, because there's a lot of the guys that you're going to start them regardless in most 2 running back leagues. It's just very rare that you're going to have 3 options there in that range. One other guy I want to talk about at running back, RJ Harvey, going against the Washington Commanders on Sunday night. Denver, a 5.5 point favorite on the road. You know, you can run against Washington. You can run outside. You can run inside. They're bad tacklers. They're old. They're slow. But we have a usage question when it comes to Harvey. Like, what sort of usage is he going to get? Will he get goal line carries at all? Didn't get it last time out against the Chiefs. Instead of Jaleel McLaughlin, who's not a hefty guy in his own right there. What are you doing with Harvey this week?
It's a great question. I talked about the Cincinnati-Baltimore game as being a reveal game, and this Denver game. So they lose to Kansas, or actually they beat Kansas City in week 11. They take the week 12 bye. Harvey's a rookie. A lot of times we're looking for possible bumps from rookies after a bye week. We're looking for teams. What do you do during a bye week other than rest up? You evaluate, you self-scout, you make changes. They recently lost Dobbins a couple games ago. So if there's ever going to be a significant usage bump for Harvey, here we go. I mean, he had 14 touches against Kansas City. That was fine. Didn't really do much as a runner in that game. But there's no reason why he can't be a 15 to 18 touch player. We know Sean Payton's history. He wants to use multiple backs. He probably will use multiple backs. But if Harvey is going to be a difference maker, I hate to say the phrase league winner, and he probably won't be that anyway, but a difference maker, a no doubt starter the rest of the way, you would think the liftoff would be against Washington, as you mentioned, this old team, this poorly constructed team that have been unlucky with injuries on offense. But the plan that they had before the season was kind of destined to fail, maybe not to this extent without Daniels getting hurt and McLaurin having a off season. But I agree with you that Harvey, this is a game where Harvey has a chance to go off. I think he's an interesting DFS play. And also 28 of 32 catches to targets. I believe he's the highest rated running back as far as quarterback rating when a running back is targeted. RJ Harvey is the runaway leader in that stat. It's like 131.6 or something like that. There's a bunch of running backs who are in the high teens. Now, part of that is he has the receiving touchdowns, and quarterback rating does give a lot of juice to those touchdowns. Maybe some may even argue a little bit too much, but the point is he made splash plays. He can catch the ball. I think he can play in all packages. The people behind him are not special talents. So if Sean Payton is ever going to give anywhere from 15 to 20 touches to Harvey, it's going to be this week in a perfect spot.
Yep. And his two huge breakout games so far this year have been against Dallas and Cincinnati. And this kind of falls under that sort of category of a type of opponent there too. So I do like him sneakily on this one here. We are brought to you by the good folks at Dabble. Dabble isn't just another fantasy app, another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this football season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up, so no deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble now. Big thanks to Dabble for joining the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Scott Pianowski. We're talking about wide receivers now for week 13. And Scott, you teased it earlier. We'll talk about him now. Justin Jefferson. How low does he go this week with you? With Max Brosmer at the helm, no better, probably no JJ McCarthy. They said he's unlikely to play. McCarthy did get some limited practice today, but either way, road opponent Seattle, even if you had Fran Tarkenton, it'd be a tough matchup here. With Max Brosmer making his debut, I'd say it's even harder.
Yeah, I have Jefferson at wide receiver 19, and I'm open to anybody you want to ask me about Jefferson. I'll at least take the conversation. Could you play Troy Franklin over Jefferson? Could you play Khalil Shakir over Jefferson? Could you play Jawan Jennings over Jefferson? Brosmer, undrafted, was seen as maybe he could be a career backup. He's only going to be playing because McCarthy's been horrible, and he's coming off a concussion anyway. This just has Seahawks 37, Vikings 10 written all over it. Although I think I might have picked the Vikings and staff picks only because the spread is so big, and I still do think O'Connell is a good coach. But and also there's something to be said for the body language in the Vikings is so bad. It's just so obvious that, and I don't blame them for this, but it's so obvious they don't believe in McCarthy. There were whispers before the season that McCarthy was having a terrible camp. I even remember my friend Dave Michaud sent me a text the final year McCarthy was at Michigan, and they were going through a championship season. He said, I'm hearing this buzz about McCarthy as a first-round pick. Do you buy it? And my original response was expletive no. because I just thought he'd be like a 3rd round pick. I just didn't see. I realized he was a highly touted kid coming out of college, high school, and all that. But he was a caretaker at college, and he played for a run for his team. And I just didn't see anything that looked like a 1st round grade, other than the fact that teams are always so desperate for quarterbacks, and we have to ask ourselves, did the Falcons stock themselves into Michael Penix Jr., right? Or should he have been a 1st rounder, right? I mean, that doesn't look very good. What a strange class that's been, where just, what's happened with Daniels this year, and Penix is hurt again, another knee reconstruction is coming for him, and the run out that McCarthy has had, which for weeks, I was just like, O'Connell will fix this. He's done it with other guys. He'll find a way to make it work. And then finally, I just accepted it's not going to work. And I think it's very this is going to be stating the obvious, but we have to conclude that the overwhelmingly most likely scenario is that JJ McCarthy just can't play.
Is this like, I could, and definitely for the rest of this season, I feel that way. I wonder if like an off season, there would be a year 2 bounce, but man, it's not just that he's looked bad. It's the degree to which he's looked bad.
And also the environment, right? Because if he was on like a bad team with no help, right? I mean, I look at what Cam Ward is doing in Tennessee, right?
Right. The definition of no help. Yes.
One win. They had somehow steal this win against Arizona, where they probably should have lost. I don't know how the Cardinals blew that game, but fine. Recovery in the end zone for Tyler Lockett. Congratulations, you got your win. But the line's been terrible. All the receivers have gotten hurt. The coaching staff's been changed, and Cam Ward is still, somehow up, staying above water. He reminds me to a lesser extent, because I don't feel as certain on Cam Ward as I did on Drake May. But last year, when I would get into text threads with my Patriot friends, we're all like, this team's bad. The coaching staff's awful. The offensive line is a joke. But Drake May looks pretty good every week. You see signs that he could be a special player. And to a lesser extent, that's how I feel about Ward, that the fact that he is not drowning in a drownable situation makes me think, okay, get adults in the room, get some better receivers. Although I do think DK is an interesting player.
Agreed.
He's one of my sleepers for this week, and somebody who should be rostered in your league if he's available. But I like that Ward has survived and acquitted himself well. What else does JJ McCarthy want? He's got one of the most respected quarterback whisperers. He's got Justin Jefferson, star. Addison, you won the Biletnikoff. He's a legitimate star himself. They have other good offensive talent here. He's had time. He's had time to watch. He's had time to learn. He's had time to play. To fail in this setup, where I don't know what else you could blame it on, right? I've seen too much good work from Kevin O'Connell. I've seen too much good work from Justin Jefferson. I've seen too much good work from Jordan Addison. I realize there have been some drops, but it's Occam's razor. What's the biggest problem here? It's that JJ McCarthy is overwhelmed.
Yeah, and all you have to do is look at the Chicago game. There were 3 drops in that game. They were bad, to be sure, but there were about 10 overthrows. There was the body language that you could see from the receivers. I mean, you could tell they're like, enough of this. This is just not right. I get that, and he's kind of like a Goldilocks. Everything has to be just right for everything to work out. The offensive line isn't perfect this year. They've had injuries, but it's still not that bad of an offensive line. You still have great wideouts. You still have, yes, Aaron Jones was hurt for a while. He was out the same time Aaron Jones was out, though. So it's not like that. Those kind of overlapped. So it wasn't even a case where he didn't even have Aaron Jones. No, it's just not clicking.
Well, there's one other really key determinant here that shows you it has to be McCarthy. They trot out Carson Wentz, age 33, who nobody thinks anything of.
Mm-hmm.
Wentz, 7.2 YPA, 85.8 quarterback rating, 43.2 QBR. And McCarthy's 5.8, 57.9, and 24.6. I've seen the stat trumpeted out last week that McCarthy was so bad last week that his quarterback rating would have been higher had he merely spiked the ball on every passing play or just thrown an incomplete pass. That's how bad he was last week. But so whatever's left of Carson Wentz, 7.2 YPA versus JJ McCarthy, 5.8 YPA with basically the exact same setup. Exact same receivers, exact same coaching, exact same infrastructure. That to me is the most damning thing we can say. And they both played, 5 games for Wentz, 6 games for McCarthy. That's not an insignificant sample.
Who's the retread veteran that the Vikings have to go after this offseason?
The thing that really hurts them is they wanted to keep Daniel Jones, and I realize Jones hasn't played that well lately. But how about Mac Jones here? Could they find a way to get Mac Jones in Minnesota next year? I would sign up for that.
Yeah, it'll cost them a little bit. They're not going to get him as cheaply as they got Darnold. I can tell you that much. But Jones has tape now. That's the difference. Darnold didn't. He didn't have that good tape. You got to find the next. Yeah, the next Darnold, the next Baker, the next Mac Jones. They're out there. You just got to find them because O'Connell, I still believe, can get that out of players. But
it's not Kevin O'Connell's fault. It can't be.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, we buried JJ McCarthy. Who can we praise? Let's talk about the Colts. You talked about Daniel Jones. You alluded to this there. We've seen some cracks in that Colts armor lately. They're only a game up on the Jaguars, 2 games up on Houston with 2 games left against each of them. They face Houston this week. The Colts receivers against Houston's pass defense. Tough setup here. I was all on the Alec Pierce train, and then he got 2 targets last week against the Chiefs, and now it becomes a tougher matchup this week. What are you doing with Colts pass catchers?
I mean, yeah, we always say when I'm talking to Mike on the breakfast table, just anytime I'm talking football with my friends in the industry, I mean, when it comes to defensive matchups, I only care about the outliers. Tell me who's great. Tell me who's terrible. I don't care. Oh, this team's 14th and this team's 18th and this team's 16th. All that stuff in the middle doesn't matter. Houston's defense is just ridiculous. What they did to Josh Allen. I realize Buffalo has a lot of problems, but to sack Josh Allen 8 times, and most of it from a base rush without exotic stuff. That's the key to the kingdom, right? That's how the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl twice, to get that base rush from 4 people and not have to do exotic things. And then all of a sudden there's nobody open because there's 7 guys in coverage. And it's great work if you can do it. It's like saying, make those 50-foot putts and you'll win the Masters. But Houston's defense is a major, major problem. So I have Pittman, Pierce, a tier lower than I normally would. I don't think that Jonathan Taylor is the best running back this week, although you'd obviously play him in a regular format. But this was when you looked at Taylor midseason, you had to look at the schedule and think, are we at a high water mark? Is it maybe time to get everything I can if it's a grandfather offer? And also, is there pumpkin risk for Daniel Jones? He played poorly against Pittsburgh, did not play well against Kansas City. A lot of concerns right now with the Colts offense.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And, I think one of the things I'm noticing is any team that can put a little bit of pass rush on them, Daniel Jones doesn't have that pocket awareness. I think the Atlanta game, they won that game. Jonathan Taylor went off. Jones made a big throw in overtime, but he made some really baffling plays, coughed up a couple of fumbles on pressures. The Pittsburgh game before that, you could see it. Teams that can get, and Atlanta's not even a massive pass rush, but they got to him a couple of times. He didn't sense it at all. The pocket awareness is a thing, and some quarterbacks never quite get it.
I'll also say that in a year where I have not been great against the spread, Houston plus 4.5 was easily, and I don't know what the line is now, and Jones did show up on the Wednesday injury report, but Houston with the points was easily the first pick I gravitated to on my best bet of week 13. 3
of us, Scott, use Texans as our best bet. Me, you, and Kevin Payne. All three out of the 5 pickers use the Texans as our best bet.
To which the way we're running, that means you should lay it all on the
run away. Yeah. Run away. First Colts home game in a month, so I'll grant that as a possibility of maybe there. There's always anytime you see that, what am I missing sort of line. The funny thing is the 3 of us all used them as the best bet. The other 2 pickers, Nick Whalen and Mario Puig, took the Colts. So it's kind of funny. We're either
the one thing I will say about the Colts though. Is one thing this offense has that a lot of teams don't have is the ability to challenge every part of the field, right? Mm-hmm. They have the possession guy in Pittman. They have the speed merchant, the downfield guy in Pierce, who's led the league in yards per catch for 2 straight years. They have Warren, who's just dynamic down the seam. Taylor obviously can play in all packages. But they even have a quarterback with mobility, right? I mean, I haven't even mentioned Josh Downs is a good football player, and he can hardly get on the field right now because of so many other things are working. So as great as Houston's defense is, the Colts have the pieces to at least be successful against it or, get to 20-plus points. I just wonder how much of Jones's confidence is shot right now. And also, there was a moment in that Kansas City game. They had the ball over midfield. It was like 4th and 3 or 4th and 4. And I would have loved to have seen them go for it. At that point, their defense looked gassed. The Chiefs had a big edge in time of possession in the second half. And I would have liked to see them try to put their foot down on offense. I felt that they played that situation passively. Of course, it's really easy to say that now, but in the moment, I was hoping that they would go for it. And Yeah, I'm really curious to see what version of Daniel Jones. This is, again, big reveal week this week. What Jackson are we seeing? What Burrow are we seeing? Right? What Justin Jefferson are we seeing? I can't wait to see, and I hope it's not as ugly as it was for Buffalo last week. But Daniel Jones could really shut a lot of people up if he had a really strong game on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely, and we'll get 2 bites out of that apple too in Houston. I think that'll be a particularly tough one there for him. Man, I'm just loving watching the 2 ends for Houston. Just the fact that they can pressure so well without blitzing that often. That's the thing that's pretty scary about that.
There are a bunch of AFC contenders right now who are saying, do not let the Texans in the playoffs. And then I realize they have all sorts of problems on their offensive line. And, CJ Stroud has lost his confidence, and, Nico Collins has been kind of hit or miss, but nobody wants to play that defense. It's easily, and as much as Seattle's defense is really good and the Rams defense is really good, the Broncos, especially when they get Surtain back, the defense will be outstanding. And we talked about Myles Garrett and the Cleveland defense. Those guys are a handful. Absolute nightmare, and I'm amazed what Garrett's done with no help from his offense. But to me, there's no doubt in my mind that Houston has the best defense in football.
Yeah, and when they were losing, it's not like they were getting blown out. They were always just finding ways to lose, and it's problems with their offense. But just think how different this conversation would be had they not had the comeback game against Jacksonville, where they were down 29-10 in the third quarter, late in the third quarter on that one there, and somehow Davis Mills, who's Davis Mills, leads a comeback there. And yes, they had some other pieces of that puzzle. But
could Kevin O'Connell talk himself into Davis Mills next year? I wonder.
I don't know. I mean, I saw that second half against Buffalo. They had like 3 and outs on like 4 drives there. So
they were hiding. Yeah, they wanted no part of Mills determining that. And to their credit, they realized their defense could win the game. And granted, Buffalo did drive. What a beautiful hook and ladder and 4th down, and Allen being Allen.
Yep.
Although I haven't talked much to Kevin Payne this year, a good friend of ours. The Bills fans got to be going crazy where you have Josh Allen in the peak of his career, and this is what you surround him with. It's going to be so frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, other than Shakir, there are every one of the other, all the other Bills pass catchers are disappointment. Dalton Kincaid was playing well before he got hurt.
He was having a quasi breakout.
Yeah.
And I guess Buffalo's defense would be, hey, we tried. We spent the 2nd round pick on Coleman. He hasn't worked out. We spent an early pick on Kincaid. He's been hurt a lot. Yep. So they tried Amari Cooper last year. Cooper had nothing left to give. So there's been some moves.
They signed Palmer, but he's been hurt a lot.
They gave Palmer a lot of money. Nobody really understood that, and they've gotten basically nothing out of him. But I feel like that's going to be. Let me ask you right now: if you had to pick an AFC representative in a very wide open year, because the Broncos, it feels like they've outkicked what their record should be. The Patriots are still a good team, but not a great team. They've had a really easy schedule. Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo have all had difficulties of different reasons. Obviously, Baltimore has kind of gotten it back together, but we talked about Jackson a lot in this podcast and how he hasn't played well right now. If I said pay your mortgage for the next year, pick the AFC representative, which way are you leaning?
Jeez. It's funny. My answer would have changed 3 different times in 3 weeks, but I still got a Baltimore feeling, and maybe it's just I'm too AFC North oriented there. But in despite the fact that we haven't seen that at Lamar, that's the thing is they've won all these games despite they've won 4 in a row without Lamar having one good game in there. Maybe one good game against Miami, a half against them, but it's been pretty ugly, and yet they're still winning these games somehow. Now, if the Kyle Hamilton injury is serious. That takes them off the table. That's just the problem. There's no team I universally believe in.
When you were talking Baltimore, I was thinking they have to have a good health run out for Jackson and Hamilton. Hamilton's that important to them.
I agree.
Their defense is night and day when he doesn't play.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this. I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to say it. I'll be surprised if the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl. I'm very surprised. And then you might think, oh, big statement. They're 6-5, but the Chiefs are like that monster under the bed. It's never dead. And last week was a great example of that. They're down 11 points. Finish them off, Colts. Finish them off, KGB. Nope, not tonight. I don't think it's happening for Kansas City this year.
Yeah, it's funny. I do a lot of stuff on Beeson, and we did they had their betting
Those
guide.
Are great, by the way. I catch it all the time on Sirius. The spots are so good.
Yeah, they are good. I love doing this. The
so much talent over there. Just hats off to those guys. I love
a lot of smart people there.
That's a great way to say it. A lot of smart people there.
And I don't think a single one of their analysts picked the Chiefs to win the AFC. So that's interesting because these are people that they're betting these games. they're This is not just, like an opinion, just being a hot take. They're usually betting, they're taking with their own money. So I think that's not to appeal to authority, but it's a good starting point at least.
Let me give you my hot take. The AFC rep is not going to be Baltimore, Kansas City, or Buffalo. I don't know if it's going to be Denver. I don't know if it's going to be New England. I don't know if the Colts will figure it out. I don't know if team like the Texans will come in and shake it up. Maybe the Chargers will get healthy. One of the big three is not going to go. It's going to be somebody else. I don't know who that is, but somebody else team.
Yeah, I don't know. I just that's the beauty of it is I don't know. Listen, I do a bet every year. He chooses 4 teams. I get the field. I'm going to give him at least another week because I don't know if 4 teams is enough. Especially because unless you just take 4 NFC teams, and that might be the answer. But if you're doing that, trying to pick the Super Bowl winner, and I think that's just crazy. If you pick teams now, you might be picking a team that doesn't even make the playoffs.
Are you all in on the Rams?
I guess that would be the first team I take. But again, it's all built on Matthew Stafford's back. If he tweaks his back, then where are we at? Jimmy G's not going to lead him through a playoff run.
I still think Seattle is really good too, by the way. Darnold obviously played very poorly in that first matchup. I think it's very plausible Seattle could win the second game. They had a big yardage advantage in that game. I hope people don't forget how good Seattle's defense is. And JSN, a guy I wanted to draft. I wasn't getting shares of him. He's on pace right now to shatter the receiving yardage record. And just the balance, the way they use him. This is a great example of how to get a guy involved before the snap and how to get him open downfield. But so much of it is what JSN can do.
100%.
His speed, his agility, his ability to change direction. And just, it's amazing how often he takes contact and doesn't lose his balance. There's just, some guys have that. Barry Sanders had that. JSN almost feels like a running back, and yet he's big enough to be a receiver and still win with physicality too. He's the whole package.
Wins it took a physicality at the point of contact, finds ways to get open because he's maybe not the burn it. He doesn't have the complete burner speed, but he makes every cut at full speed. And that matters a lot.
And he sets up defender. He's like cat and mouse with these guys. He's so good at it, man.
He really is.
I'm getting nothing out of it. It's just so much fun to watch him now.
It is fun to see a guy take that leap. It always is fun to see that happen there. We are brought to you by the good folks over at Chalkboard. Chalkboard is a team that a company that can help you with your NFL knowledge. Cash in on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players receive a free pick and 100% deposit match. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines. Get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports. Now available in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use promo code ROTONFL. That's ROTONFL to claim your free pick and 100% deposit match. You can do that now over at Chalkboard Fantasy Sports.
What a great name, by the way. It's at a time where every great name seems like it's taken.
Yeah.
Chalkboard. I can immediately think of Vince Lombardi, we get a seal here. We get a seal here. We run it in the alley, Exactly. I love that.
Yeah, indeed. They've been sponsoring us all season long. So thank you, Chalkboard, for your sponsorship on the RotoWire podcast. Talking with Scott Pianowski from Yahoo Fantasy Sports. We're talking week 13. Oronde Gadsden. Let's talk tight ends. Let's talk Oronde Gadsden. Scott, I want to get your opinion on his long-term value. Because, short-term, I think he's a pretty close to a lock in the top 10 most weeks. If you're in a dynasty league, are you targeting this guy? I that's the one thing. I'm not seeing a whole lot of dynasty trades involving Gadsden yet.
Well, I would think the people who have him don't want to give him up.
Right.
You talk about the tight end who moves like a receiver. Remember his father was a decent player, NFL receiver for 7 or 8 years, mostly with Miami. And they use him. They put him in motion. They put him in the slot. You always want to look at, there's all these new stats now. What matters, right? When it comes to tight ends, I want my tight end in the slot. I want him out wide. I don't want him blocking. And that's basically what the Chargers do with Gadsden. And, Allen's not going to play that much longer. Maybe Johnston doesn't get another contract with the Chargers. He's been kind of a hit or miss guy. Honky's obviously a terrific player, but there's room for another impactful guy. I think Gadsden could easily have a run where he's a top 5, top 6 tight end for several years in a row. And Herbert, very good quarterback. They've obviously had a horrible run out with offensive line injuries this year, but Gadsden, the fact that he can do this much, we've been spoiled with rookie tight ends. It forever was the rule of thumb was you ignore them, and then Laporta popped, and Warren and Loveland have been really good this year. Obviously, Bowers was just out of this world last season, but Gadsden to me he was somebody I was intrigued by before the season. I wasn't pounding the table for, but he's become not just a dynasty guy, but somebody who we can count on weekly in fantasy. I have him at tight end 7 this week, so he'd be a starter for almost anybody who rostered him. I'm definitely a fan and a believer in his future.
Got him at 6, just got him ahead of Mark Andrews. And if you wanted to argue Andrews over Gadsden, I could believe it because it is Bengals week after all. Andrews could go for 3 touchdowns as far as I know. It's entirely
there's just too much touchdown equity. You would have to. Yeah. I think Andrews over Gadsden there's no doubt in my mind, because if I told you the Ravens just scored a touchdown on a pass, you think it must have been to Andrews. You wouldn't feel that way about the Chargers.
Yeah. Brenton Strange is back. He had a nice game in his first game back. First target of the game was to him, like a 28-yard pass. And it was, I think, a big 3rd down conversion there. Is he a top 10 guy for you the rest of the way?
Little outside it. I have him at tight end 14 this year.
Okay.
Now, on one hand, the receiver room, right? I mean, Hunter's hurt. He's out for the year. We don't know when Thomas will either be back or be anything close to what he was last year. I'm so lucky I don't have all the Brian Thomas this year, because I wanted all the Brian Thomas this year, and I just kept falling into slots where I wasn't getting him. I was frustrated, and it turns out I got lucky on that one. But we're just at a point now where maybe it's just never going to happen for Trevor Lawrence. Maybe he's never going to be a talent elevator and the special player he was pegged to be the moment pretty much he started at Clemson. We were all thinking, should teams lose all their games to get Trevor Lawrence? Is he going to be like a 10-year right answer? And maybe he doesn't have the right receivers. Maybe we can't hold that the Urban Meyer year against them. Liam Cohen's coming in. They upgraded at receiver. Thomas is really good, and all that stuff has fallen flat this year. So Strange, 5 for 93 is a great game. He only had 5 targets. I don't think he has the profile where he's going to have a heavy target share. And I don't feel like the touchdown equity is as good for him as it is for some other players. Fair. So I couldn't get him over a Hunter Henry. I couldn't get him over a Jawan Johnson. Is it a really nice season for the Saints? Theo Johnson and Strange is probably a seam call for me. I have them 13 or 14. I like Strange. I also can't forget that last year when he was just starting to pop, and one week I was really in on Strange and I needed him in a key spot. I think he benched in the second half for one reason or another, but I think he's somebody who's good enough to be in that start-sit conversation. He's not good enough that he's ever going to be a slam dunk starter. Part of that is maybe his limitations, but really that's a statement on the Jacksonville passing game.
It really is. It is. I almost feel like Urban Meyer is still a disaster, but maybe he wasn't all to blame for this. Maybe there's a little bit of Trevor in there as well, that we stopped giving it all that blame to Meyer. Just say, okay, well, maybe Meyer went crazy in part because he was working with Trevor. Trevor got hurt in college. And I think when he came back, he wasn't quite the same guy as he was his freshman year. He almost peaked as a freshman, which is tough. I mean, they went undefeated national champion that year, and he had an amazing crew around him. And I wonder, maybe things changed a little bit there, and he didn't quite change with it there, unfortunately. Got some questions. Do you mind hitting a few questions on the way out here?
Sure.
All right, let's crank some of these up here. Starting off here, we got a couple questions. We'll start off right here. Question is, should I start Javonte Williams or Travis Etienne this week? This is from Shadow Wicked.
Great question. I actually have them 15, 16. Not that I want to be always just a slave to where I have them ranked. I have Williams one slot higher. I guess because Williams has less competition in the backfield, and I realize Tootin didn't play a lot last week after getting a lot of carries the previous week, but at least I can tell myself the story that if the Cowboys do have a rushing touchdown, it's going to belong to Williams. He's actually been a little bit more effective as a receiver than I expected, especially recently. A slight edge to Williams. I could never fault anybody for playing Etienne the spot. I think people have forgotten just Etienne's a pretty good football player. People could not wait to give his job to Tank Bigsby since traded, to give his job to Tootin, who's been held at arm's length most of the season, although Tootin has looked good at times. But I think Williams just has a little bit more job security and maybe a little bit more goal line equity. Very close, though.
Very close indeed. Thanks for the question. Let's go to Country Boy Jazz, who has a question for us here. gives us a number of options here. I'm going to just, okay. So word to wise, when you're asking us the questions, don't give us your whole lineup and ask us to tell you who you should start. I want to just give us the who, either or. I'm going to move on beyond that. Sorry, country boy, but sorry, it's just too hard when we're doing a podcast there. Stephen Pereira asks, what are we doing with Bucky? This is a good question. Bucky Irving going to come back this week, most likely, barring a setback. What sort of usage should we expect out of Bucky Irving this week?
It's a great question because Tucker has played pretty well. And a guy who would have been a drafted player had he not had the heart condition, I think it was at Syracuse. He also was better his second to last year in college. And then, all the health problems kicked in and then his stock kind of fell. But he's a really good player. And Rachaad White's okay. He's a bona fide NFL player. Maybe he's more of an average back. So Tampa Bay doesn't necessarily have to make it the Irving show right away. And then we don't know, is Mayfield going to play? Is Mayfield going to be compromised? Ibuka has really fallen off after a good start. He's been hurt. Godwin was almost invisible last week when he came back. So this offense, the buoyancy of the offense goes down. I have Irving right now at running back 20, and I don't really know what to do with him. Here's the thing. I don't think he's an automatic start. I think there's certainly, I would play Dowdle over him, no question. I would play Harvey over him, no question. I think Kenneth Walker has done enough that he's kind of more of the 1A as opposed to the 50-50 with him and Charbonnet. So I think Walker is somebody I would play confidently over Irving. If Judkins gets cleared physically, I'd be fine with Judkins over Irving too. I think Bucky Irving is a great player when healthy, but he's missed so much time, and the offense he's stepping into has a lot of problems right now. So I'm probably more reactive than proactive when it comes to Irving in week 13.
I agree. It's a tough call, especially because Sean Tucker's proven to be pretty good between the tackles. I think that's one of the things too that, I think he'll get his work. And that's another reason why Bucky's just not going to get that heavy workload in his first game back. Steven has, he's trying to start three between Bucky, Tetaroa, McMillan, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Michael Wilson. And I think I'd start the three receivers all over Bucky this week. I'll
co-sign that too.
All right. Very good. Henry asks, quarterback, Sam Darnold, Drake May.
You have to go May. Just the Giants present such a good matchup, and May probably does something with his legs. Now, they just lost the two linemen. Campbell's the guy everybody's talking about, but two starters are down, so you worry about that. But I want to pick on the Giants where I can. Sorry, Chris Liss.
Exactly. He probably wants that, though. He wants the higher pick, so it's okay. Master J asks, need to pick two, full point PPR, Tetaroa McMillan, Michael Wilson, Nico Collins, James Cook. It's the first world problem to have to pick two among these. I think we can stipulate Cook. I can't see sitting Cook, especially against the Steelers and their run defense. So give me one between Tetaroa McMillan, Michael Wilson, Nico Collins.
It's Collins for me, but if Harrison was ruled out and you wanted to play Wilson, I wouldn't fight you over it.
I think that's fair. Indeed. Ken asks, would you start Sutton or Watson this week at wide receiver? Cortland Sutton or Christian Watson?
It has to be Sutton because with Watson, there's always a chance the game could end and they'd be like, oh, Christian Watson had 2 targets. Oh, Christian Watson played 47% of the snaps. And I realize that Sutton is losing a lot to Franklin, and Franklin and Nix went to college together, and Franklin's getting all these red zone opportunities. Interestingly enough, Nix and Franklin can't seem to hit on a long pass. A lot of that has been Franklin's fault. He's had some drops there, but it's like 1 for 16 on passes over 30 yards. Somebody had that on Twitter, and I apologize for not having the credit because I would give it out if I had it in front of me. But still, Sutton, he's got a better floor, and they probably still have. I think the upside on both players is probably about the same. So the floor and back class that Sutton has, and Watson's missed so much time, the Packers can't wait to put a different receiver on the field. They've always operated that way. The offense has not been as good through the air since they lost Kraft. So to me, not that Sutton is guaranteed anything, but he's a clear preference over Watson right now.
Indeed. That's going to wrap it up. Scott, thanks for taking some of these questions. Everybody, thanks for posting these questions. If we didn't get to yours, please use our Ask an Expert service. You can always post questions on my articles over at the RotoWire Value Meter. We'll get back to them before kickoff. I'll be going through a wave of those tonight. Or you can use our Discord. You can check all those things out. And we have a special sale over at RotoWire right now. We're having Black Friday sale. If you use code Friday, get 30% off any RotoWire subscription. Again, code Friday, 30% off any RotoWire subscription. Scott, awesome talking with you as always, my friend. Thanks for doing this. Always great to get your knowledge. I'll just have a good conversation with you. So thanks for coming on board today.
My pleasure. Thanks for everybody for watching. And if you're still there, Len, thanks for checking in, man. He said that I defended you after you came down on him hard, Jeff. I don't remember what you said about Len checking him into the boards, but always fun to talk to you, my friend. And I'm just thankful for, that RotoWire's been a part of my life, and that you and again, the whole family, Pete and Tim and everybody, you've really been great to me, so I'm thankful for that, and just thankful for the friendship accepted and gladly returned.
Indeed. And Len's a great friend. Love Len as well. He plays in the RotoWire Stake League. And
who's winning the Stake League?
Not me. I'm very, as the kids would say, I'm very mid.
Is Liz still in that league?
Liz is still in that league. Yeah. He's on the struggle bus right now.
Because I'm sure he would basically fly, halfway across the world to get a free stake.
Well, the funny thing is he missed last year, but all the other times he usually plans a trip to LA. So we usually work it out. I saw him in Portugal this past summer. It was awesome.
Oh, nice.
Lisbon's great city, by the way, too. Awesome time. And it was great to spend a day with him. The last day of our vacation, last full day, kind of had the behind the scenes tour of Lisbon. It was great. The non-touristy tour, which is always fun.
I'll also say this. I remember, this is going back a ways, but I remember when he was still in LA, he had a bunch of us over one night, and he got a bunch of meat and cooked for us. And it was just a delightful dinner and really good time with a lot of great people.
Indeed. He's a good cook. He is a good cook.
He is. He was a really good cook. I remember the food just being great.
Yeah. Giving praise to Chris Liss on the way out. Who knew? All right. I love it there, everybody.
Yeah. Pick up Chris Liss and start him in week 13.
There you go. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Good luck in week 13. Thanks for listening to RotoWire. Got John and Mario tomorrow. Take care.